Welcome back to the channel, everyone, where we love talking about movies and more. I'm your host, Mason Phillips, and today I have a movie review for you for the Best Animated Feature winner at the Oscars last year. It's the movie Flow. Before we get any further in this review, I want to ask you guys to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get notified when new videos go live on this channel. When you guys do that, it always helps me out. I greatly appreciate it. Now, let's talk about the plot. Cat is a solitary animal, but as its home is devastated by a great flood, he finds refuge on a boat populated by various species and will have to team up with them despite their differences. So the movie Flow, like I said at the top of this video, this film won the Oscar for Best Animated Feature at the 2025 Oscars for the 2024 film season. And it just so happens that currently Flow holds my #1 spot for my favorite movie that I saw from the 2024 film season. This movie was spectacular, a movie that I had only recently watched, didn't get a chance to watch it before I watched the Oscars, and I wish that I had. But I totally understand why it won the Oscar for Best Animated Feature, because this movie truly blew me away. It is so surprising that a movie that not only features animals as the primary star, but also has no dialogue whatsoever. It's all done by cats meowing, dogs barking, just animal sounds, animals communicating with each other, but you still feel the depth of the story without any dialogue. And that is what surprised me the most about this movie, is how captivating the movie was, how engaging the movie was, and how deep the drama and character work was done without having any dialogue featured in the film. That is where I think the movie really excelled, is in its storytelling. Now we'll get to the animation and how this film was animated, how this film looked, but the storytelling in this movie was spectacular. I don't know how they pulled this off, and I'm surprised that they did. And it's a film that comes from a studio that I've never heard of before. It comes out of Latvia. This is the first Oscar, I believe, that the country of Latvia ever won, and so they're very proud of this movie doing so well. It's actually kind of funny. They just put a statue up to commemorate the film Flow because of the win that it just had at the Oscars, and that is so incredible. The praise that this film is getting is well deserved, and it's one of the few films I actually feel in the Best Animated Feature category at the Oscars. That one was closer to what I would have nominated for Best Animated Feature. About half of the films that were nominated for Oscars for the 2024 film season, I agreed with the nominations, and the other half I didn't really agree with so much. It's one of those years where it's a little frustrating the way it kind of went, but I also can understand the way it went. It's just the way the Oscars go. It's kind of a toss-up on how you see things. But for Flow, totally deserved that it got this. I wish it had been nominated for Best Picture, had been pushed into the Best Picture category, and sometimes that does happen. There have been animated films that have been nominated for Best Feature, for Best Picture, and I just wish that this is one of those years where it crossed into both categories. But I'm totally happy with the fact that it won Best Animated Feature. It's completely deserved. Again, the storytelling, the fact that it could capture the depths of character work and storytelling without having any dialogue was so impressive. You get the story of this cat, and I'm not a cat person, I'm more of a dog person, but this is a film that really resonated with me, and having the cat as the primary star, the primary protagonist, and it brings together these disparate characters. You know, this is really strange crew of animals that we get as we go on the story. We've got a cat, a capybara, a dog, a bird creature, a lemur is also featured in the crew. You don't expect characters like this to come together, but all these characters are racing towards a common goal. The floodwaters on Earth are rising. From my understanding, this has got to be set somewhere in the future because there's no human life whatsoever. It's clear that humans used to live on Earth at one point, at least in this region. It's just animals. It's all we've got now at this point. And it's not animals that have evolved. You know, sometimes we'll get stories where animals have gained some human characteristics. These animals still have animal characteristics. They're just surviving without humans as well. So it's just an animal story, fully focused on an animal story and the journey that the cat goes on. Now, none of these characters have names. They're just known as cat, dog, capybara, bird, lemur. But I think the story of this cat is so touching, so profound. It's a story about a loner character, someone who doesn't have a family, someone who doesn't have a place in the world. And all of these characters come together out of necessity to survive. And it's that story of survival, that story of belonging, that story of finding your community and finding your family. And and learning that you are more than who you were at the beginning of the film. There's character growth. There is so much depth to this film, and it's so impressive the way it all worked out. And I was truly captivated on just a storytelling aspect alone at the beginning of this film. And so I can't believe it took me so long to watch this movie. It is on Max currently, so if you have not seen Flow, do yourself a favor and go watch it right now. I'm not really going to spoil anything through this film. I'm just kind of going to tell you what the plot is, what the central plot is going forward, going throughout the film, but I'm not really going to tell you how it all plays out. So don't worry about spoilers through this review, but Flow was truly captivating. Now, I talked about the storytelling, so impressed with how that went, but the animation, this film was animated on the software Blender, which is a free animation software, and it beat out films like Inside Out 2, which cost over $200 million to make, a Disney Pixar film, which I also quite liked, and I'll be doing a review for Inside Out 2 very soon as well. But Flow beat out a Disney Pixar film for Best Animated Feature, and again, I think it is truly well deserved. Now, at one point, I thought my favorite film for Best Animated Feature was going to be The Wild Robot from DreamWorks, because that was also a very well done animated film. This film also beat out a DreamWorks animated film. It beat out a DreamWorks animated film. It beat out a Pixar animated film. Flow was able to do all of that off of a free animation software. The animators truly stretched the capabilities of what Blender could do to create the environment, create these characters, and it is so impressive that they were able to do all of this. This film is just truly, truly impressive. It just blows you away without any dialogue in the story. It's just animals going about animal nature and gaining this community, you know, lone characters who have no community, finding a family. And then the animation style, it's got these nice brush strokes, and it looks like a painting come to life in many aspects. And I really like the way that this film was put together. The messaging of this film is so wholesome, and that's just another thing that I think the Oscars miss, is the wholesome storytelling that we just don't get. It's great to have, you know, these dark stories at times, you know, it's nice to have that, but when that saturates the entire market, it's just sadness over all of the stories that we find nominated for Best Features at the Oscars. That's just a little disappointing for me, because I think you can go beyond that, where you can find these truly serious stories, but out of all of that, you can find a wholesome message and a joyful and hopeful message at the end of all of it. And characters that you thought were lost find a greater place at the end of the film. That's something that I also really appreciate, is that these are characters that you can root for, that you can get behind. That's something that I think is also lost in a lot of films that are nominated for Best Feature, is there's often characters that you can't root for, not just because they are flawed, but because there's no redeemable qualities to these characters. And so that's another thing that I thought was so nice about Flow, so refreshing about Flow, is it wasn't cynical. It wasn't trying to be cynical. It was just trying to tell a good story, and it did. It blew me out of the water. It's my favorite film of the 2024 film season. It's my favorite film that has been nominated for an Oscar from the 2024 film season. Flow was just completely incredible. I truly love this movie. I'm just going to keep saying great things about this movie, but let's go ahead and move on to the mix category for Flow. I do have something in the mix category, so let's move on to that right now, because I could just continue gushing about everything that I loved about this movie. All right, so what was mixed about Flow? Sometimes the animals can feel a little stilted. Sometimes they can feel like they don't quite move as fluid as I would have expected. Now, all of the environments were done quite well. The water effects were really good. The lighting in the jungles and the trees, everything in the environment, the aspects of the environment, was all done very well. Movements of the animals, though, with the dogs especially, can feel a little stiff at times. And it's that Blender animation, I think, that they were really stretching the capabilities of this animation. And there were times when the animals just didn't quite move as fluid as I would have expected. That's super impressive, because this is a free animation software, what they were able to get out of Blender in creating this film. But there are times when the animals do feel a little stiff, and I think that that's where I can find the only flaw in this entire film, was the stiffness of the animation at times where the characters were concerned. That's all I have in the mixed category, so let's just go ahead and bypass the negative aspects of this film, because I don't have anything in the negative aspects of Flow. Nothing that really made this film a negative experience for me. I just found one thing that was mixed, but everything else about this movie was truly, truly spectacular. So let's just go ahead and bypass the negative aspects of this film and move on to my final thoughts on Flow. This is my favorite film from the 2024 film season. For the longest time, it was A24's Civil War, but Flow beat that out. So again, spoilers for my big ranking. Right now, Civil War holds my number 2 spot, and my number 1 spot is Flow. And I'm actually very happy that a film like Flow was able to beat out a film like Civil War. Again, talking about that wholesome storytelling, that there's hope and you can really support and root for these characters. And that's something that you don't get out of Civil War, but you do get out of Flow. So I appreciated that element of the film. This film really blew me away, truly surprised me. I didn't know what I was getting out of this movie. And it's another great experience of not having any expectations going into this movie and then just being completely blown away, completely surprised by a movie, just catching me off guard in all of the right ways. I truly love Flow. If you have not seen Flow, do yourself a favor. I always say that if I really like a movie and you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor, watch Flow right now. It is truly spectacular. The character work is so well done. A film without any dialogue is able to get so much depth out of its characters. The animation work, so beautiful, so spectacular, and super impressive. They were able to use a free animation software like Blender to create such a great film like this. Again, if you have not seen Flow, do yourself a favor and watch it right now. If I'm going to give this film a rating, it's got to be a 5 out of 5 or an A+ on the letter scale. The only perfect ranking I have given to any film from the 2024 film season, and I think Flow is definitely deserving of that ranking. It was truly a spectacular experience. Again, if you have not seen Flow, go ahead and do yourself a favor and watch it right now. If you have seen Flow, go down in the comment section and let me know what you thought of this film. I'd love to hear from you. Before you go, remember to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get notified when new videos go live on this channel. When you guys do that, it always helps me out and I greatly appreciate it. Hope you all have an awesome and a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next video.